Hello everyone, I've been showing you about this new colored pencil blending technique, particularly using Prismacolor, which is a total opposite of the burnishing technique. This is what I call the dry technique. So the part 1 regarding this dry technique, the video, the real-time video is linked down on my comment section. It's pinned there so you can visit that because this particular video is part 2, but I can say this is an updated or version 2.0, let me say, of this dry technique that I've been studying using Prismacolor Premier Colored Pencils. This is a very nice and I think a bit easier blending technique compared to the burnishing technique. So let me show you on this video how it has become an updated version and how it can help us to make our portrait easier, especially the skin tone, especially the blending, which I understand especially for beginners, is quite hard and difficult to do the blending. Typically we use the burnishing technique, and I have also a video regarding the burnishing if you want to try it, but this I'm going to show you the updated version of the dry technique, so watch out for it. Here is the video. I don't know if you will agree with me that one of the most difficult things to draw are the facial hairs, the eyebrows, the eyelashes, particularly the eyebrows, especially the thinner eyebrows like this on my reference photo, where you can see underneath the eyebrows the actual skin tone. So when you use the burnishing technique with this kind of facial hair, the thin eyebrows, it's almost quite impossible and hard to draw individual strand of hair because with the burnishing we tend to flatten the tooth of the paper and everything becomes really smooth and everything becomes really creamy, that it's quite hard and almost impossible to draw facial hair above the burnished skin tone surface. So I'm gonna show you how easier to draw this kind of facial hair using colored pencils with this dry technique version 2 that I'm gonna show you on this particular real-time colored pencil video. So this is what we are going to do. So this is the star of this dry technique, this particular specific Prismacolor Premier Colored Pencil, which is the beige. Okay, the beige. You should have it because this is very important on this dry technique, because as I analyze it, this is the most what do you call it, versatile pencil to use on this dry technique. So what I do with this beige Prismacolor is I'm gonna sharpen it using sharp cutter. I'm gonna expose some of the lead. Okay, so just like what I did on the first part of this dry technique tutorial, which is linked below on my comments section. Okay, and then I get my clip metal charcoal sharpener, and I'm just gonna powderize my beige Prismacolor colored pencil. You can use sandpaper with this. We just get some powder beige Prismacolor. We are going to use this on our dry technique. So here now we have the powderized beige Prismacolor. But because this is version 2.0, the updated version of the dry technique, we are not going to apply it using brush. We are going to apply it using blending stump. So what I do to make everything a little bit faster is to just use the cutter knife to clean the tip of the blending stump. Okay, so what I do is I wanna do like this to soften the tip of the blending stump. Okay, we don't need a sharp blending stump. We need, yeah, there, softer, bigger tip like that, because this is what we are going to use to apply the beige colored pencil. And because this is an updated version of the dry technique, in the first version that I showed you, we put the powderized beige during the last part of the layering technique or the blending technique. Here we want to use the powderized beige and to put it first before we even layer the actual skin tone. So using this this tip that I'm trying to make a little bit softer here. Okay, so I think that's quite a good tip, like this, soft and not too heavy, and yeah, just like that. Okay, I know you already got the idea that we need to hide the tooth of the paper. In burnishing, we flatten them towards the end because we don't want the tooth of the paper showing through with our final output. But we actually need the tooth of the paper to draw more layers of colored pencils above the blended skin tone. Particularly like what I told you a while ago, particularly facial hair, such as the eyebrows, the eyelashes, which is quite hard to draw individual hair or thin hair, facial hairs. It's quite hard to draw when the tooth of the paper is flattened, which is what usually happen with the burnishing technique. So what we do is a little bit of a trick. This one, using this blending stump and then the powderized beige colored pencil. This updated version, we use the blending stump instead of a brush, because I can feel like it's going to be more effective in hiding the tooth of the paper, or in filling in the tooth of the paper with the pigments of this powderized beige colored pencil. So using the circular motion, we don't want to press hard, just enough pressure to hide the tooth of the paper. We want we want the tooth of the paper, because we can draw on the paper if it has the tooth. So I encourage you, if you are going to do this technique, the dry technique, use papers with nice tooth or texture. Don't use very smooth papers. That's not going to be effective on colored pencils, particularly Prismacolor. We need the tooth, but we don't want them to show up in our drawing. So here, we just hide them using this powderized beige Prismacolor blending stump, using blending stump. Can you see how easy it is to cover the tooth of the paper with this very nice kind of technique? This is the updated version, because on the first tutorial with this particular technique, we use this powderized beige towards the end of our blending, but here we kind of like use it as a base tone. Okay, but using blending stump is more effective in doing this kind of technique where we hide the tooth of the paper. Because when you draw particularly eyebrows, you don't just draw the hair. If this is a thin eyebrows where some parts of the skin tone are showing through the hair, we need to establish the skin tone that is beneath the eyebrows. We just don't draw the hair. We need to establish the skin tone first. So I'm just continue doing this until I totally covered the tooth of the paper with this powderized beige colored pencil. I just realized that you can just even use your finger to add more powder. Just make sure that your finger is really dry and that you don't have a sweaty finger. Alright, now I think we are ready to layer the actual skin tone, because I think that we already have, hidden the tooth of the paper already. Okay, now I'm starting to layer the skin tone. I use exactly the same colors that I used on the first video, and here I'm just gonna layer very lightly with very sharp point, with the concentration on the skin tone underneath the eyebrows. You want to do it really light, because we already had the help of the powderized beige Prismacolor, so we are not really worried about the tooth of the paper, because it's still here, although it's not quite visible already. So we just want to establish the shadow. So this is the black cherry, our first layer. Second layer is the moss green. This is the moss green. I like to use it on the darker shadow, because the skin tone beneath the eyebrows is a bit darker. It will help us make very nice full eyebrows, full tone. Next is the pumpkin orange. I think this is the most dominant color in our portrait. This is the Prismacolor pumpkin orange. Again, when you are drawing facial hairs or eyebrows in particular, where the eyebrows is not very thick, that you can still see the skin tone underneath the eyebrows, you really need to establish that skin tone just like how you establish regular skin tone. And then towards the end, we are going to draw the hair, because I can see with her eyebrows there are some scattered eyebrows or individual strand of eyebrows here, which is typically very hard to draw when you burnish the skin tone, because there's no longer tooth to draw on. And with this dry technique, you will see that it's becomes more easy to draw individual facial hair, because we haven't flattened the tooth of the paper. With this technique, we just hide the tooth of the paper. Okay, so this is the pumpkin orange. The next layer is the pink. It's a lot easier now to layer because we were able to hide the tooth of the paper at the beginning when we added as a base tone the powderized beige colored pencil, or Prismacolor beige. So this is the pink. This is the chestnut, and this is going to desaturate the skin tone a little bit. It will deepen the shadow on the skin tone beneath the eyebrows. So we have a very nice full shadowed skin tone under the eyebrows. So a bit later on, you will see the actual drawing of the eyebrows, where it should not going to be hard to draw a single strand of eyebrows or hair. I know it's not going to be hard because I know that I know that I already preserved the tooth of the paper, because we are not going to flatten them on this dry technique. So the tooth of the paper is pretty much intact, and we can use those tooth of the paper to draw facial hairs or details or wrinkles or whatever. So usually I find it really difficult to draw facial hairs and details when the skin tone is already burnished, when we already using the burnishing technique, when we already flatten the tooth of the paper. So here the idea is to preserve the tooth of the paper towards the end, but we don't want to see them. We don't want to see the tooth of the paper. We just want to feel them. That's the idea. The next layer is the salmon pink. So as you observe, I'm going from dark to light. But I started with a light base tone, which is the powderized beige, to hide the tooth of the paper a little bit. But we're going to do some blending after the layering. As you can see, because we are observing the basic of layering, which is sharp pencil, light pressure, circular motion, be slow with the layering, that will really pay off, because we are not going to find it hard to blend. Everything becomes a little bit easier compared to just, you know, make everything as fast as we want to go, but being a bit slower in terms of the pace of the drawing, that will really help us in maintaining quite smoother skin tone, and we tend to struggle less in terms of the blending when we observe the basic of layering. Next is the lavender. For beginners, it's important to practice, do some swatches, and don't be afraid to use many layers of colors, and don't be afraid to you know, commit mistakes in terms of layering different kind of colors, because as you go on with your study, you will develop the skill, you will develop the eye in picking the right combination of colors to use for a specific skin tone, because skin tones are different. There's no specific combination of colors, so it really depends on your reference photo. But the only certain on this particular drawing or style or technique is the powderized beige, and I can really suggest that that is the specific color to use on this particular technique. And here comes the last layer. This is the nectar. So this pencil is just to, you know, balance out things here and to slightly blend everything together. But I'm not pushing hard, I'm not burnishing, because just like what I said, I will be needing the tooth of the paper towards the end, especially in adding details such as individual strand of eyebrows of hair. The tooth is really important and crucial to this kind of drawing, because when you flatten the tooth, there's nothing to draw on. Now, using a clean blending stump, we're just going to blend everything together using medium pressure, maybe just enough to blend the layers of colors together and to not to flatten the tooth of the paper. Just medium pressure, maybe, because medium pressure won't flatten the tooth of the paper. I start to blend the skin tone under the eyebrows right here. As you can see, all the layers of colors are now starting to blend together. So with this technique, it's important to use many layers of colors. Few layers of colors will not be as effective. I think I need to clean my blending stump to blend this lighter shadow here. I don't want to use dirty stump on the lighter shadow, so we just need to clean the stump when we are trying to blend lighter shadows. Now we need to get back our powderized beige Prismacolor right here in the blending stump for our final, what do you call this, final technique, dry technique, where we want to hide the tooth of the paper. This time, this is going to be the last part where we hide the tooth of the paper using this powderized beige Prismacolor. So we just using a very light pressure with a clean blending stump. You just want to concentrate on the parts where we can see some tooth of the paper is still a little bit visible. Again, this is the dry technique where we try to avoid flattening the tooth of the paper, because we need the tooth of the paper, especially on this part where I will show you the eyebrows, where I find really hard to draw using the burnishing technique, because I couldn't draw single strand of hair on a burnished skin tone. There's no tooth to hold the pigment of the color pencil to use on tiny details. So yeah, we need the tooth of the paper, but we don't want to see them on our final output. Now it's time to use our white Prismacolor to show some of the highlights. So here, we don't use the white as a burnisher, but just regular colored pencil, where we need the white to make sure that the highlighted areas are very much visible in our drawing, like here, to make our drawing look realistic and three-dimensional. You can just press a bit harder on the white to establish the more brighter highlights, or the highlighted eyebrows right here. Now we're ready to draw the hair on the eyelashes and the eyebrows. We start with our eyelashes using the black colored pencil. When you do your eyelash or eyelashes, you start on the tip, going up because you want to have a tiny tip of the eyelash. And you want to do it a little bit quicker to make a solid line. Now you can observe that the colored pencil is, or the hair is, a lot easier to draw on this technique because you can still feel the tooth of the paper. So as you can see, it still produces a very intense drawing, this black above our dry technique blended skin tone compared to the burnishing. The burnishing surface makes it really hard to do this, to draw uh, above the burnished skin tone. But as you can see here, it's really easy, and the line that the pencil is producing on top of the blended surface is quite intense because we all know that the tooth of the paper is there, is still there, and it provides a very nice surface to draw on this kind of details. The facial hair, you can also easily draw wrinkles or other details. If you want detailed skin tone, this dry technique is very effective, because the idea is we didn't flatten the tooth of the paper. So now you can see how we can easily draw on top of the skin tone. This is the individual strand of hair that I've been talking about, which is typically so hard to draw when you use the burnishing technique. But here, even if after the blending we did, we are still able to draw this. By establishing the skin tone underneath the eyebrows. Now I'm gonna shut up and try to concentrate on this because this is quite tricky. I really need to get it right. So just watch me doing this. And now I'm gonna use the black cherry above the hair of the eyebrows and the eyelashes to make it more natural looking. Again, I still love the burnishing technique because it produces really nice, smooth, beautifully saturated skin tones. But sometimes I want to try some other kind of blending technique, such as this one, which is the dry technique, because they just feel and look different. And sometimes you tend to find some technique that would make things a little bit easier, because colored pencils is already hard. Portraiture realistic drawings using colored pencil is already hard. So if you can have techniques which can make everything a little bit easier for you, we just want to try those techniques such as this one, the dry technique. If you like tutorial in real time with colored pencils such as this one, you can check out the playlist here, right here, right now, and the link is also on the pinned on my pinned comment on my comment section, and I also will put the link on the description. If you want to watch some other tutorial focusing on blending colored pencils, producing realistic skin tones such as this one, you can check that playlist. Okay, so I still need to do some adjustments on the skin tone, and I can very well do that because I was able to preserve the tools of the paper. So I can still do some adjustments on this particular drawing. I just show you this updated version of the dry technique. I hope you like it. Thank you so much. See you on another video. Link on my comment section, and right here, it should be here